Have you ever jolted awake to the realization that the only peace you feel in your relationship is when you suppress yourself so much that you forget who you once were? When your emotions are twisted into faults, when everything you say is dismissed as too sensitive, and when you begin to doubt your own intuition? If any of this feels familiar, it is very likely that you are being held captive by a narcissist, someone who survives by weakening you day after day. They do not need to shout. They only need to make you believe that you are always wrong. But then, in the suffocating heaviness of that reality, another kind of person appears, someone who has learned to rise from their own ruins. Not a divine savior, but someone who has been hurt, who has been broken like you, and who has learned how to stand back up. A super empath has the ability to see straight through the mask a narcissist builds, and more importantly, they remain calm even when faced with manipulation and chaos. Their strength is quiet, but powerful enough to make the darkness retreat. And when a healed empath finally confronts a narcissist, the entire control system that the narcissist spent years constructing begins to crack, because the empath no longer fears confrontation, no longer trembles before the truth, and most importantly, they no longer feed the narcissist's inflated ego through endless tolerance or self-sacrifice. A healed empath is no longer a source of energy to be drained, they become a force of resistance. They are the narcissist's fatal weakness, the presence that strips away their ability to dominate and control. And for that reason, in today's video, we will explore the 5 ways a super empath, through clarity, boundaries, and emotional steadiness, can dismantle a narcissist's grip and open the door for you to reclaim yourself. First method: breaking their sense of entitlement. The very first reason a healed empath becomes a narcissist's worst nightmare is their ability to question the things everyone else tolerates in silence. To a narcissist, entitlement is not a trait, it's a worldview. They believe they deserve priority, obedience, and immediate satisfaction. And for a long time, this works flawlessly, especially when their partner is someone sensitive, empathetic, or terrified of conflict. But the moment they encounter a super empath, the dynamic flips instantly. A healed empath no longer sacrifices themselves to maintain false harmony. They no longer bend to unreasonable demands, hidden beneath phrases like, "You should understand me," "You owe me," or "If you love me, you must." They see through these tactics, recognizing the motive, the manipulation, and the subtle power play behind every request. A super empath asks the questions a narcissist fears most. Why must things always go your way? Is what you're asking fair? Do you think I exist just to meet your needs? These simple questions strike at the heart of the narcissist's control system, because a narcissist's power only survives when the other person stays silent. Remove the silence, and their dominance collapses. Faced with someone who is no longer scared, guilty, or emotionally controlled, the narcissist becomes confused, irritated, even panicked, not because they were rejected, but because they are no longer seen as the center of someone's world. And at that moment, the first fracture in their power begins to show. Second method: seeing through the manipulation. While an ordinary empath often gets swept up in a narcissist's emotional theatrics, a healed empath stands on completely different ground. They have endured enough pain to recognize that most of the hurt, fragility, or desperation the narcissist displays is nothing more than a mask crafted to maintain control. Because they understand this mechanism, they are no longer shaken by familiar tactics like playing the victim, silent treatment, guilt-baiting, or passive-aggressive pressure. To a super empath, these tactics are old scripts, predictable and transparent. The moment a narcissist starts complaining, feigning sadness, or begging for sympathy, the healed empath sees through it instantly. This is not emotion, this is strategy. And that clarity creates distance. A super empath refuses to give the narcissist the emotional reaction they feed on. There is no panic, no emotional over-explaining, no urge to fix or rescue. Their voice stays calm, grounded, and steady. This is what terrifies the narcissist most. Emotional neutrality. No anger, no fear, no guilt, just quiet strength. To a narcissist, that stillness becomes a mirror so clear that their manipulation reflects back at them. It exposes every tactic they thought was invisible. It leaves them without cover, without power, without control. And once they can no longer manipulate your emotions, they can no longer manipulate you. This is the moment their influence collapses, another layer deeper. Third method, shattering the inflated ego. One of the reasons a healed empath becomes a true threat to a narcissist is their ability to face truth without fear. A narcissist survives through an illusion of superiority. They need admiration, praise, and the sense of being above others. But to a super empath, all people are fundamentally equal. No one is born to be placed on a pedestal. When a narcissist steps into a super empath's space, they are confronted with a reality they cannot bear. They are not the center of anything. The super empath sees what others overlook: deep insecurity disguised as confidence, fractures hidden beneath arrogance, emotional immaturity masked as authority, and a desperate dependence on validation. What terrifies the narcissist is that the super empath says these truths out loud. No sugarcoating, no fear, no submission. They point out the truth with calm precision. You're not above anyone. That's not confidence, that's fear. You don't control me just because you want to. Bow. To the super empath, this isn't retaliation. It is restoring the truth to stop the harm. They're not fighting to win. They're setting boundaries to end the abuse. A narcissist cannot tolerate this. The moment they are seen clearly, the mask they've spent a lifetime perfecting begins to crack. No one is mesmerized anymore. No one is intimidated. No one is impressed. And that is the moment their inflated ego, the very foundation of their identity, starts to collapse layer by layer. Fourth method, refusing to absorb any attacks. One of the super empath's greatest strengths is their ability to reject harmful words before they ever reach the heart. A narcissist thrives on verbal attacks. They shift blame, distort facts, and use insults as weapons meant to lower your sense of self. But to someone who has emotionally matured, these attacks fall flat long before causing damage. A super empath understands the roots of these assaults. Behind the rage lies fear, behind the accusations lies helplessness, and behind every demeaning comment lies a fragile ego desperately trying to stay intact. This awareness keeps the empath from reacting the way the narcissist expects. No anger, no defensive explanations, no frantic attempts to justify themselves. Instead, they calmly say, "That's your feeling, not the truth about me." Daces 1-2. And that alone is enough to destabilize the narcissist. When the super empath refuses to internalize the negativity, the narcissist's manipulation loses its power. Their attacks only work when the other person believes them. Without that belief, the narcissist is left striking into empty air, no impact, no control. What destroys the narcissist most is losing their ability to dictate how others feel. It is the very power they rely on to dominate. To a super empath, these attacks aren't personal, they're predictable performances, and they no longer attend that performance. The moment a narcissist realizes they cannot penetrate the inner world of a super empath is the moment their power dissolves entirely. And when every attack fails, the narcissist clings to one last hope. Fifth method, strategic confrontation. What makes a super empath the most formidable opponent for a narcissist is not emotional intensity, it is strategy. While the narcissist reacts from fear and instinct, the super empath operates through observation, understanding, and intentional preparation. They have lived through enough chaos to recognize the patterns, blaming when exposed, playing the victim when cornered, and fabricating stories to regain advantage. The super empath no longer falls for it. They save messages, note behaviors, observe reactions, and speak only when necessary with clarity rather than emotional reactivity. Every interaction becomes a strategic chess match. When the narcissist attacks, the empath already has a counter. When the narcissist shifts blame, the empath has anticipated it. When the narcissist rewrites the story, The empath holds the evidence. What terrifies the narcissist most is losing control of the narrative. A super empath's grounded presence prevents the chaos the narcissist depends on. Without chaos, manipulation has no oxygen to survive. And so, in the battle between confusion and clarity, clarity always wins. The super empath steadily closes every escape route the narcissist has relied on: false victimhood, emotional ambush, or social triangulation. When the narcissist finally realizes they cannot twist the truth, cannot shift responsibility, and cannot escape accountability, that is the moment they collapse. Their power dissolves, and the facade they built for years crumbles in silence. And finally, after every layer of confrontation and every truth has been stripped bare, we arrive at the core of this entire journey. Anyone can become a super empath, not because they are chosen, but because they dare to face the things most people run from: a forgotten childhood, wounds no one ever named, years spent living in fear of disappointing others. Most empaths grow up in environments marked by instability, by a lack of safety, by a kind of love that always comes with conditions. And because of that, they learn to give too much, to sacrifice too deeply, until they eventually disappear in someone else's story. Becoming a super empath isn't about knowing more, but about seeing more clearly. It is the journey of relearning your own worth, redefining your limits, and loving yourself not through ideas, but through action. It requires a kind of cold, relentless courage, because you must let go of the role of the rescuer, the role that drained you while allowing the narcissist to thrive. But once you cross that threshold, you become someone no one can violate emotionally anymore. No one can weaponize your old wounds against you. No one can push you back into survival mode, where you give until there is nothing left just to maintain a fragile peace. You stand anchored in your own truth, unmoved by someone else's reaction, unwilling to shrink yourself for approval. Your calm becomes an unbreakable boundary, and in that moment, you are not merely free from the narcissist. You become their fatal weakness, a presence that renders them unable to manipulate, unable to dominate, unable to sustain the illusion of power they once lived on. That is the deepest meaning of the healing journey. Absolute freedom, real peace, and a life no longer defined by anyone but yourself.